Hanukkah, we have a Hanukkah story, so we'll go ahead and get started. And we'll go ahead and get started the way we always do by greeting each other, and we can use different songs for this, right? So we've used a lot of different Hine Matovs, but today we'll use Shalom Aleichem, or Havenu Shalom Aleichem, because there's two songs. One's Havenu Shalom Aleichem, that we can use for greeting each other no matter what, and then there's Shalom Aleichem, which is a separate song that we usually use on Shabbat. So this will be Havenu Shalom Aleichem, which lots of people sing at bar mitzvahs and all kinds of other things. So this is a good one to know, just generally, and it only has three words: Havenu, Shalom, and Aleichem. Only Hebrew words in the song. And you say them a bunch of times, so it's pretty easy to learn. So we'll start slow and we'll go a little faster as we learn it. Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Not bad. Havenu Shalom Aleichem, three words. Start it slow, go faster. People do the hora to this, hora, all kinds of other dances. So it's good to know. So we have a couple of Hanukkah songs. We have a Hanukkah story, all kinds of things today. But one of the things that we know about Hanukkah, probably, is that there's that thing we play with called a dreidel. And, you know, the dreidel has four sides, and each one corresponds to what you do with coins or nuts or toys or whatever it is you're playing with. Hopefully, your grown-ups are not letting you play dreidel with money. Grown-ups, if you're listening, try not to let them play dreidel with money just because, right? So hopefully you're playing dreidel with something that you like, other than money. And in Hebrew, the word for dreidel is sivivon. So sivivon in Hebrew means dreidel, but sivivon really just means, in Hebrew, a thing that spins around. So savav is the Hebrew root that means to spin, and sov means spin, so we'll actually say sov during the song. So there's two verses, and the first verse goes like this: Sivivon, sov, 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 Chanukah hu chag tov. Dreidel, spin, spin, spin. Chanukah is a good holiday, a happy holiday. So you say Sivivon, sov, 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 Chanukah hu chag tov, and then you turn it backwards. Chanukah hu chag tov, Sivivon, sov, sov, sov. So let's start with that. That's one verse, all in Hebrew. That's a good place to start. Sivivon, sov, 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 Chanukah hu chag tov, Chanukah hu chag tov, Sivivon, sov, 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 Sivivon, sov, 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 Chanukah hu chag tov, Chanukah hu chag tov, Sivivon, sov, sov, sov. Okay, so that was the first verse. Let's do it one more time so we know it. Sivivon, sov, 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 Chanukah hu chag tov, Chanukah hu chag tov, Sivivon, sov, sov, sov. Not so bad, right? Here's the second verse. Chag simcha hu la'am. It's a happy holiday for the people. Nes gadol haya sham. A great miracle happened there. We talked last week about what the miracle is. So, Chag simcha hu la'am, nes gadol haya sham. And then again we flip it around. Nes gadol haya sham, Chag simcha hu la'am. We talked last week that the miracle is not a big miracle from heaven. The miracle is actually really just a very plain one for the world, that a small number of people were able to beat a really big army, which isn't really a big miracle like, some hand coming from heaven and doing it. But it's pretty amazing that that kind of thing happens. So let's do that second verse. Chag simcha hu la'am nes gadol hayasham nes gadol hayasham Chag simcha hu la'am Chag simcha hu la'am nes gadol hayasham nes gadol hayasham Chag simcha hu la'am Chag simcha hu la'am nes gadol nes gadol hayasham Chag simcha hu la'am. So let's put it all together. We'll do the first verse, the second verse, a couple times each so that we kind of know the song. Ready? Sevivon sov 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 Chanukah hu chag tov Chanukah hu chag tov Sevivon sov 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 Sevivon sov 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 Chanukah hu chag tov Chanukah hu chag tov Sevivon sov 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 Chag simcha hu la'am nes gadol hayasham nes gadol hayasham Chag simcha hu la'am Chag simcha hu la'am nes gadol hayasham nes gadol hayasham Chag simcha hu la'am Sevivon sov 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 Chanukah hu chag tov Chanukah hu chag tov Sevivon sov sov sov. Okay, so we did Sevivon. We did the whole thing of Sevivon a bunch of times so that we can kind of learn it. We'll spend the next couple of weeks going back to Sevivon because it's all in Hebrew, so it's harder to learn when it's all in Hebrew instead of some of it in English, some of it in Hebrew, right? So we'll make sure that we kind of go back to it every so often, right? Okay, so we've got lots of Hanukkah choices for stories. So what we'll do for the next couple of weeks is we'll read this book, The Magic Menorah. There's no such thing as magic, really. These things are fables. And we talked about what fables are. So this is called The Magic Menorah, a modern Hanukkah tale. And we'll see how the story goes. So we'll do a few chapters each week. We'll probably do 2 chapters today and see kind of where we get. So this is The Magic Menorah by Jane Breskins Albin, illustrated by Donna Diamond. And chapter 1 is called The Box in the Attic. Once upon a time, in a small village not too far from a large shopping mall, seems very modern, there lived a boy named Stanley Green. He had everything in the world a child could ever need or want, and so, since the first night of Hanukkah was beginning at sunset that evening, Stanley's parents wondered what they could possibly give him. As usual, Stanley's relatives were coming. The house always got hot, noisy, and stuffy. Great Aunt Sophie would give mushy, wet kisses and would pinch his cheeks. Does anybody do that to you? I don't like the pinch cheeking thing, or the cheek pinching thing. Uncle Max would squash him in a bear hug and breathe hot onion breath on him. When his younger cousins Nathan, Ernie, and Emma came over, they always fought and yelled and made a mess of things. That meant a lot of picking up and cleaning up after them. And Grandpa Abe, who always told the best stories the rest of the year, became quiet and sad during Hanukkah. Stanley just wasn't looking forward to the holiday season. You know, sometimes it's okay if you don't actually like a holiday, even if everybody else does. Stanley's mother, Mrs. Green, hummed to herself as she covered the dining room table with Grandma's lace tablecloth and linen napkins. Then she began to prepare for the Hanukkah meal. The kitchen buzzed with the sound of mixing and grating. Stanley peeled potato after potato. He grated so many potatoes, his knuckles were almost as raw as the potatoes he peeled. His mother paused from chopping onions. She opened the kitchen window a bit and breathed in the cool night air. "Those onions are sharp," she said, wiping her eyes as she added the onions to the latke batter. It was heaped high as a mountain in a ceramic bowl. My tears could fill this bowl, she laughed. As Stanley peeled and grated more potatoes, and applesauce bubbled in a big pot on the stove. That's how you make applesauce, by the way. You kind of cook apples. His mother suddenly hit her forehead on the back of her hand. Oh no, I forgot to buy cinnamon for the applesauce. Stanley, I need you to help out while I run to the corner store. She continued as she put on her coat and gloves. You know the large trunk in the attic? Inside is an old box covered with lots of foreign stamps. Grandpa Abe asked us to get it for him this Hanukkah. It would be a great help to me if you would do that. This box is from your great uncle Velvel. Velvel is an old Eastern European style Jewish name, by the way. Who's Uncle Velvel? Stanley asked. Velvel was Grandpa and Great Aunt Sophie's brother, back in the old country. Which old country? Romania, his mother answered. Uh-oh. Stanley thought of werewolves and vampires and wondered if the box contained fangs, wolfsbane, or soil from the Transylvanian homeland. That sounds kind of spooky. Stanley's a little dark today. Stanley's mother gave him a quick peck on the cheek. I'll be back soon. Dad should be home in about an hour. He's leaving work early tonight. And with those words, she disappeared into the snowflakes swirling outside. So, Chapter 2, called The Magic Menorah. Stanley gingerly tiptoed up the stairs to the musty attic. He wondered what could possibly be in the box that Grandpa Abe has to have tonight, the first night of Hanukkah. Stanley found the trunk right away, tucked under the window. He undid the latch and slowly lifted the wooden lid. As the rusted hinges creaked, Stanley peeked inside. He pushed away an old army blanket, a frayed baby quilt, and a bundle of some yellowed letters tied with a rose-colored velvet ribbon. He reached deep into the trunk and pulled out a package covered with brown paper and faded stamps tied up with twine. Stanley shook it and heard something rattle. Was it bones? With the original soil from an old vampire coffin? Should he open it? His mother hadn't said not to, so he gently tugged at the twine, carefully untying the small knots. Stanley paused a moment and took a deep breath as he removed the brown paper and opened the box. He slowly unwrapped a soft, worn roll of cloth, making sure nothing would break or fly out, like maybe a bat. A large, dusty old menorah was in the center. Stanley eyed the tarnished brass. A menorah, he thought? Why would anyone send this old thing all the way to America? He took a corner of the cloth and wiped the Hanukkah lamp, and the more he rubbed, the shinier it became. Dust and caked dirt crumbled away. Stanley picked up the menorah to get a closer look. There were Hebrew letters engraved in the base and braided designs on each branch of the candelabrum all the way up to the candle holders. A menorah is sometimes called a candelabrum, and a candelabrum is just a thing that holds candles. So when you say candelabrum, it's a thing that holds candles. A menorah is, after all, just a thing that holds candles. Just as he finished cleaning the shamash to the golden gleam of a thick veil of smoke arose from the menorah. So this is the shamash, the one in the middle, right? The tall one in the middle that is the helper candle for all the other ones. Just as he finished cleaning the shamash to a golden gleam, a thick veil of smoke arose from the menorah. I have never heard of a menorah lighting itself, so let's see what happens. Stanley felt the slats of the attic floor tremble beneath him, and out of the cloud of smoke, an ancient-looking man appeared. He wore a moth-eaten black woolen overcoat and an old felt hat. Here he is. Where did you come from? Who are you? Stanley stammered, frozen with fear. Any bit of courage he had escaped like the smoke from a Chanukiah. Chanukiah is the Hebrew word for a menorah. For Hanukkah, special Hanukkah menorah. Who am I? The old man said, dusting off his overcoat. Who are you? And what do you want? He continued. What do I want? Stanley sputtered. Listen, boychik. You rub the schmutz off the lamp just like a genie. Poof, here I am. The old man sat down on the trunk and blew his nose with a raggedy gray handkerchief. A genie? My father's read me fairy tales about them. Genies are big and strong, bare-chested. They live in faraway places with silk turbans and magic flying carpets. Genie Shmini, I am who I am. An old man with a crumpled hat and this shmata for an overcoat. Where I come from, who could afford a turban, let alone a fancy carpet? Between you and me, to schlep around in this cold weather without a nice warm coat, you'd have to be a little meshuggah. The old man lifted his head and sniffed the air. Do I smell cooking? You know, after all these years of being cooped up in the menorah, I could use a nice nosh. Hoping that his mother had come back from the store, Stanley climbed down the stairs with the menorah in his hands and placed it in the window. The old man grumbled as he followed Stanley into the empty kitchen. Oi, those stairs are hard on old legs. You'd think through the centuries, poof, I go from here to there, I'd be in better shape, but I'm not. I am tired and winded. I could use a nice glass of tea. Do you mean a cup of tea? Stanley asked. The old man, out of breath, nodded. Glass, cup, what's the difference? But a glass would be fine. And if you should happen to have some rugelach or a piece of honey cake, I wouldn't complain. Stanley filled the copper kettle with water, set it on the stove, and looked for a little treat. So, the old man sighed as he sat down, waiting for the water to boil. Should I call you Stan or Stanley? Stanley, answered Stanley, surprised. How do you know my name? Don't ask. I see and hear many things in that lamp. Call me Fischl. Stanley had never heard such a strange name. Did you say fish meal? No. The old man said. Fischl. My name is Fischl. It means little fish in Yiddish, like a guppy. So, Fischl said after taking a bite of a raspberry rugelach, what can I do for you? What do you mean? Stanley leaned his head on his hand, looking confused. What do you mean, what do I mean? You summoned me from the lamp. He pointed toward Velvel's old brass menorah. The person who releases me receives all the treasures between heaven and earth. Everyone knows. You rub a brass lamp till you're ready to flots, you get 3 wishes. 3 wishes? Stanley asked. Fischl shook his head back and forth and he looked upward. When I get myself mixed up in Oiga Vault, 3 wishes, it's standard. After the 3rd wish, I return to the menorah, the old man replied, impatiently tapping his fingers on the table. While you're thinking, I'll have my tea and poke around a little. Fischl stood up and began to examine the pots in the stove. He put his nose into one, closed his eyes, and smelled the applesauce. Needs cinnamon, he mumbled. Stanley rolled his eyes, thinking of his mother going out to the store for cinnamon, which had gotten him into this situation in the first place. Yeah, I know, he said. Fischl lifted the lid of another pot, matzo balls, bobbing, and chicken soup. Ah, knedlach, you mind? Knedel is a Yiddish word for a matzo ball. Knedlach are matzo balls. Gotta translate some of this, right? Without waiting for an answer, he dipped the ladle into the soup and scooped up a fluffy white matzo ball. Stanley watched him slurp some noodles from the soup off a thick wooden spoon and then dip some into the potato kugel, helping himself to the family's Hanukkah meal. It has been a long time since I've had such Hamisha food. You'd think I hadn't eaten in years. Come to think of it, I haven't. Fischl laughed. Enough, he finally said, patting his full belly. I'm satisfied. So, new already. What's it going to be? Well, Stanley paused. What do people usually ask for? What do people usually ask for? The old man repeated. The usual. Fame, fortune, happiness. You name it, I've heard it. It's up to you. So, we will continue next week with Chapter 3 to find out what kind of trouble Stanley gets into. Because when people call up genies, inevitably, trouble happens. So we'll see what the trouble is in the Magic Menorah. Okay, so we talked about Hanukkah a little bit. We have a Hanukkah story we're going to keep reading next week. I get to pretend like I'm an old Yiddish guy, which is fun for me. And we've got one song left. So I want to make sure we do a couple of Hanukkah songs. And we did Sevivon. And, you know, that one has a lot of Hebrew in it. So our other song should probably have a lot of English, you think? Just to make it a little easier on us. And there's a really good one by somebody named Debbie Friedman. And if you've been going to Machar's JCS, you've actually heard this song before. It's called Not by Might. So we'll do Not by Might, and we'll do it a little bit every week, and not too hard to learn the English. But the words are not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. And then there's another verse too. So we'll start with the one verse, and we'll see how it goes.
Not by might, not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in
Okay, so that was the first verse. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Okay, so we'll do it one more time. Ready?
Not by might, not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might, not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace.
Okay, so here's the next verse. The next verse, the words are, the children sing, the children dream, and their tears may fall, but we hear them call, and another song will rise. So we'll do it all together. Here we go.
The children sing, the children dream, but their tears may fall, we'll hear them call, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise.
So let's do that one more time.
The children sing, the children dream, and their tears may fall, but we'll hear them call, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise.
And then you go back to the first one.
Not by might, not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might, not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. The children sing, the children dream, but their tears may fall, but we'll hear them call, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise. Not by might, not by power, shalom.
Okay, so we did Sivivon, we did Havenu Shalom Aleichem, we did Not by Might. I'm not such a great singer that Not by Might sounds super, super good, but probably you learned enough to learn it. And we'll come back to some of those Hanukkah songs in the next couple of weeks. And we'll keep learning about the Magic Menorah and all the trouble that Stanley probably gets up to now that he has his very own personal Yiddish-speaking genie. So I hope I'll see you next time. I hope you're doing okay at school. Thanksgiving is coming soon, so hang in there. And I'll see you next time.